Hey guys, it's HoppingHammy, and I am so excited about today's video as it's a video that has been requested for a very long time, and I finally got to put it together for you guys, so I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to start off by showing you the empty enclosure I will be decorating, and that's this custom-built DIY cage. If you're new to my channel and are wondering how to build something like this, there is a video in the description that explains the basics, and hopefully it can be helpful to you. I'm going to be showing you how I set up and design my cage themes because a lot of you have wondered how I come up with the ideas and how I decide where to put everything, so I'll be walking you through my thought process and how I usually do that. Okay, so whenever I set up a new cage theme, the very first thing I do is to choose a nice background that is complementary to the design I have in mind, because this really pulls the whole look together. I'm choosing from these aquarium background rolls I have, which you can buy by the foot, and I'll show you the different designs on them. The first one is this solid blue, which I already know I won't be using because it's too boring for this theme, so I'll set that one aside. Next I have this roll, which has two different desert backgrounds, and I really like these pictures, but I already know it doesn't fit for the theme I have in mind, so those backgrounds are also a no. Then I have this roll, which has tree trunks and dirt on one side, and green plants, rocks, and a blue sky on the other side. It's pretty nice, so I will set it aside as a possibility. Next up is this roll with colorful plants and grasses on one side, and rocks with moss on the other side. I'm totally loving the colorful plant photo, so this one will be a possibility also, and I'll set it aside. This next one is saltwater corals, which definitely won't work, and the other side is a different type of colored plants with blue sky. Some of these are similar, but they are different if you really study them. Here's a background with rocks and beautiful green plants, and then more underwater rocks, which also won't work. Are you bored yet? Because I still have more rolls to sort through. This one has a gorgeous image with rocks and green grass on it, and it's definitely one of my favorites, but I may use it for the top tank later on. The other side is an underwater rock scene, which I already used in a past underwater theme some of you may remember. Finally, there is this last roll, which you'll probably remember from Kashi's epic rainforest theme. Totally love this one, but I won't be using it today. The other side has another rock with green plants design. So I pulled out the three options I set aside, and I decided to go with this background because I really liked the vibrant colors, the tall plants, and I feel it'll be the best choice for the theme I have in mind. Now I'm going to attach it in the cage, and the way I do this is just with duct tape, which I loop over itself and make it double-backed, and then I attach it behind the backdrop to stick it to the cage wall. I always do this in a way that makes sure the hamster won't have access to the tape, and it's not something I necessarily suggest to others to copy me on, but it's something I feel comfortable doing personally and have never had any issues using tape for the backgrounds. So here's what the background looks like, and I'm really happy with it, and I think it will go perfectly with the theme. Now, this is probably the point where you get to find out what theme I'm making, and I've decided to go with a Holland theme. This idea was 100% inspired by my friend Elstja154 on Instagram, and I've been following her account for many years, and she has literally the best, most creative, cute themed cage setups for her dwarf hamsters, but also she's an incredibly sweet lady, and she's kind to everyone, which I really admire, so please be sure to go check out her account. and take a look at the Holland theme she created a little while back, and maybe give her a follow if you can as well. She truly deserves it. Okay, my next step when designing a cage theme is I will always go look in my hamster supply drawers and pick out anything that would be good to use or that fits the theme well. I'll show you an overview of my drawers really fast. The first one is for all of my big wood pieces such as logs, driftwood trees, and cork. The second drawer has more wood items, but it's more like bendy bridges. There's a spiral staircase made out of tree stumps that I made, and random woodcraft pieces, and a bunch of other stuff. Below that is a drawer with more wood items, I would say mostly dwarf-sized ones, as well as hay tunnels, teepees, coconut houses, and a few colorful wood platforms and toys. This final drawer on the bottom just has colorful plastic tubes, so I won't be using any of those tubes today, and I don't have to pull anything out of this drawer. This second file cabinet unit contains a bunch of randomness that couldn't fit in the other drawers. There's a giant PVC underground tunnel, some polyresin items, some little food dishes. Below that drawer is a drawer of mostly polyresin items, and a lot of these are more for dwarfs as they're smaller, but I do have a few large items mixed in here as well. This third drawer has all of my Habitrail ovos, and yes, I still have those if you can believe it. I may pull those out and set them up in future, but I won't be doing that for today's theme. This last drawer has some large, heavy rocks and some random fish tank supplies that I didn't have room to store anywhere else, so it's a bit of a mixed mash drawer. So I'm going to start setting out all the various items that I hope to use in this theme, and I don't always have room to put everything in that I want to or that I think I might want to, but it helps me to visualize the theme layout if I can see the items I have and then go from there. It also helps me a lot to start with adding in the biggest items or the most important items first, and then if there's still room, the other items can go in later and fill in the small spaces. Alright, so these are all of the supplies I pulled out that I think would be nice for my Holland theme, and I likely won't end up using all of these, but let's just see how many I can fit in. I'm going to start placing them in various areas in the cage, and oftentimes I end up moving them around later on, but it helps me to get a sense of how much space there is to work with to start laying these out in the cage where I can see it. So as I was setting up the enclosure, I noticed that this wooden platform, which I had built for Kashi many years ago, had some wooden sticks that had broken off the front. So I took out my hot glue gun and I glued them all back on. I'm also going to be adding some more moss to cover the tops of the sticks because some of that fell off, and this is extremely important to cover sticks or bendy bridges because a hamster's paw can get stuck in it when they climb or jump over the edge, and I've heard terrible stories of this happening from some of my friends, so you always want to cover these edges to prevent any issues. Better safe than sorry. You can also see in this corner where I have a box for a sand pit, there is a bendy bridge fence, and I am using small rocks to cover the top edge of the bendy bridges. Those also have a missing spot where the rocks fell off, so I will find some more to glue on and cover that up also. I typically will use either hot glue gun or silicone to glue these rocks on. Now for some reason I can't seem to find the wooden flat roof for this house, and I know I have it somewhere, but if I can't find it, I may make one out of cardboard because this house and tunnel system is going to be buried underneath the bedding, and it will need a roof on it to keep the bedding from falling in the house. But anyways, I'm going to keep working and see if I can find it. The next thing I decided to do was to boil some of these pieces of wood to re-sanitize them before Sprocket uses them. I used a lot of these with Kashi, and she didn't have anything contagious or any sickness when she passed away, but I still like to sanitize them in between uses anyway. The way I like to do this is over a large pot of boiling or simmering water on the stove. I do have a past video talking more in detail on this if you're interested. I haven't listened to it in ages, so hopefully it's not outdated, but for now I'll just show you an overview of the process, and I personally prefer to boil it in water as opposed to putting them in the oven because I'm too scared of things catching on fire, so I feel like it's safer this way, and it also cleans it a little better because the water helps to wash anything off as well. Alright, so the wood items have been sanitized now, and one of my favorite things to do in a cage theme is to make hamster-sized trees. Now, to do that, I'll first take these two manzanita bird perches and I'll grab a piece of reptile moss, which is about the right size and shape for the tree, and I will gently poke it down into the branch tips. Sometimes it will be snug and fit perfectly, and other times it's a bit loose, so I'll have to glue it on, but today it fit perfectly and I'm happy with how it looks. I'm choosing one green moss pillow and one that's more yellowed to add a variety in color because some trees start to change color and I think that's really pretty. For the base of these, I just used a small ceramic pot and I glued that onto a piece of craft wood so the trees can stand up and not fall over. It's a little hard to explain this, so I hope my visual picture of this can be helpful. You can also put some rocks or some sand inside of the ceramic pots before you glue it to the wood, and that way it'll help add some weight so that the trees don't tip over. I also have this beautiful piece of spider wood, which was originally bought for my failed aquarium, so I'm going to use it now for a large hamster tree, and I think it's going to look awesome. You can see now I have added the 3 different trees into the enclosure, and it's really starting to come together a lot more. So next I wanted to show you this back corner dig box that I made out of cardboard, and I'm going to be using it for loose coconut fiber substrate, which is kind of similar to like a soil. I just cut out the shape I wanted on the cardboard, and then I hot glued pieces of moss to cover the edges. For the front box, I wanted to use this as a sand pit, but I didn't have any sand, so I'll take you along with me to Home Depot to get some sterilized children's play sand. This is an awesome deal at $5 for a 50-pound bag, and it's already been washed and screened, so it's very clean sand, and I find that there's little to no dust in it. I'll also mention that it tends to be a little bit damp when you get it, so it is something that you'll want to spread out and let it air dry. I usually put it under the AC vent, and I find that works very well at drying it out quickly. Now I finally get to work on adding in the bedding, and I'll start by removing most of the items in order to fill up the base, and then I'll re-add the supplies in as I go. Today I am using aspen wood chip bedding for the main areas, since this is the most inexpensive option for me to fill up an enclosure this size. Because it is so big, it can be a little tricky to reach in the back areas, so I'm using a stick to help me push the bedding around into where it needs to go. I will definitely say my lower back hurt a ton after doing all of this, but it was totally worth it and I had a lot of fun. Now, of course, I realized after I did this section that I forgot to put some Carefresh and toilet paper inside that little wooden house in that underground burrow. I have a feeling he might like sleeping in there, so I want to make it a little softer than the wood chip bedding, so I had to take the roof back off and put the bedding back in and then replace it. Here's a better view of what the house looks like and how it connects to that underground tunnel. Okay, this side is done for the time being, although I'll add more bedding later on, but I'm going to move on to filling up the left side now. For this back corner, I am going to be using coarse coconut fiber, and this is what it looks like. It's sort of like bark, but it feels quite a bit softer. This is all I have left from this bag, which is definitely not going to be enough, so I'm actually getting a package in the mail tomorrow from Chewy in order to finish, but I'm just going to dump in what I have for now, and then tomorrow I will add in the rest. Next, I added in this large tree next to the wooden house, and it was a little bit top heavy, so I weighed down the base of it with rocks, and this way here it won't tip over. Now, for some reason, I was really struggling with this front corner and coming up with something that looked nice and was also practical for the hamster. Usually when I set up cage themes, there's always at least one particular area that I struggle with, so I try a lot of different options and eventually come up with a layout that I like. Okay, so here is where we are starting at today. I did quite a lot yesterday and I am feeling exhausted today. I'm feeling very rough, but I can't wait to put him in here, so I'm going to keep plugging away and working on doing this. Today, thankfully, I don't have a ton to do as far as bedding and all of that. I just have to go through my supplies and pick out little decorative items and details and start putting like the oat sprays and the little flower petals and that sort of thing. That's always my favorite part when I set up cage themes, is doing the final details, because that's really, I would say, what pulls the whole theme together. So I'm starting to pull stuff out over here. I have some supplies. These are little paper flowers that I had bought in past and I never used them, and they're actually tulips, so that's perfect. Got this little rake. I have some acorns, and then I just pulled out some of these like pine cones and dried sunflowers. I have these cardboard flowers. I'm debating about, I'd really like to make some sort of a tulip field, but I really don't have a ton of space in here the way that I mounted the bedding. It's probably hard to see, but the ground is very uneven, so it's not like I have a big flat area to do a big tulip field, so I possibly might skip that. I do have those flowers over there, and then I'm thinking I might put those cardboard ones maybe like up over there. I'm not sure. So anyway, I'm going to get started, and I hope my coffee will kick in soon because I'm ready for a nap. Oh yeah, also forgot to mention, in this corner, this is where the sandbox is going. So when I bought the sand, pretty much all of the bags had a little bit of dampness, moisture in them, so that's typically how it is. So what I do is I pour the amount of sand that I want in the box, and then I put it under the air conditioner, and I just keep mixing it around with my hand every couple hours, and it helps it to dry out really quickly. So it's almost dried out, but I am going to leave it out for the rest of today while I'm working, and then I'll go put it back there in the corner.